Hi, welcome to this fast food stock ratio modeling case. Here we're going to look at a series of companies. We have four companies that make up this truncated fast food industry. We have Chipotle Mexican Grill, Shake Shack, McDonald's, and Yum. Yum is a combination of companies. It's Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, KFC, which is all run by the Yum Corporation. Okay. So the point of this case is, how do we take raw financial statement data downloaded from the internet and use it to create an industry average and a year-over-year comparison of companies' results? So the first thing we have is our industry page. And we have all our financial ratios laid out in here. And we have our four companies and industry average. So we need to populate this. Now, for each company, we have an income statement, we have a balance sheet, and we have a year-over-year tab, which is blank. We have to create this. So let's start by creating these year-over-year tabs. We'll see that McDonald's already has a template. So we're going to, let's just copy this McDonald's template. And we'll go back in later and we'll update it. Let's populate these and we'll go back later and we will clean it up. Okay. So let's go back to the industry. So we need to bring in the data for these items that are some are from the income statement, some are from the balance sheet, but we only need these items. So we don't need the full income statement and balance sheet. But we do have the full income statement and balance sheet over here, so we're going to have to bring this information over. So the first thing that we should do for any of these pages is we should format it. So I'm going to take the area with data. Let's give it some borders and a strong border around it. Maybe I will color the first tab using a similar color to the tab. So this is like a red color here. And then maybe I'll make this, it's kind of hard to see, so I'll put this on gray. And then I'm going to view, and I'll freeze the top row. Freeze the top row, so when I scroll down, I can see what year I'm in. And then I'm going to format these values. So let me just first set everything to a currency. I'll take away the zeros. I don't need zeros here. Now some things are percentages. So I'm going to format the percentages. Anything that's a zero is most likely a percentage. Okay. So now that I have this first column formatted, I'm going to just take my format painter and I'm going to run this through the other columns and get everything nice and formatted. And then, of course, what I need to do for each page is set a print range. So I'm going to go here. And this is all part of making your work professional. So if you want to make your work professional, you have to, do a couple common things, which is, set a print area and then maybe configure a print area. I'm going to make this landscape. I want to fit this to one page. I'm just going to adjust make the margins a little smaller so more fits on the page. I'm going to give it a header and a footer. Look at a print preview, and it looks really good. Okay, so let's go back. So I have my print range properly set, and I have my formatting done here, and I should do the same for the balance sheet. So for the balance sheet, I can't just, if you're thinking I could just highlight this, hit a paint formatter and go back over here to the top, it's not going to do it completely. So I'm going to have to go in. There are probably some misformats here. So for example, this should be a currency, not a percentage, because and you'll see the reason for this is that they don't line up properly. So there are some things that should be Should not be a percentage. Okay. Okay, so actually nothing on this should be a percentage. So here's the formatting. And I'm going to, we don't need these columns. We really don't need anything past 2017. So I'm going to delete that. It's not going to be needed. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to, let's reset the borders. I'm going to take this column that I formatted, bring it for all of these, take away the change. Make sure there's no, we don't need a change. So it just takes a little bit to clean this up. Okay, so that's looking good now. And you'll see here also going to have to each page, I'm going to go to view, freeze the top row, and then I'm going to highlight the area, set the print area, and then do a page setup, landscape, make the margins a little bit smaller so I get more on a page, put in my header and a footer, check out the print preview. Okay, so I don't think, it doesn't look good, so let me try the fit to one page, print preview. Okay, much better. So now we have our document fit to one page, and we have our print range set up. Okay, and you can repeat this process for the other worksheets. I'm not going to do that now because it's going to waste a lot of time. So let's go to the industry, and now Chipotle Mex. Okay, so we want to populate the stock price and all these values from these pages here. So you see the 1625, but a quicker way rather than going in and populating it one by one, because there's a lot of extra rows in here I don't need. So I can't just copy and paste, and it's going to take a while to pick and choose. So I could use an XLOOKUP formula to do this. So I can go in, this could be a VLOOKUP or an XLOOKUP. I like to work with XLOOKUP. So I can take the stock price as the value name. I can take the lookup array would be column A, and then the return array would be in Chipotle's income statement, column B. And I'm going to say OK. And it brings in the price. So if I pull this down, you'll see that it's not going to populate everything, but it did populate these. These are from the income statement. So these must be from the balance sheet. So I can go in here, and you see where it says income IS? I could just change the IS here. Rather than redoing the whole formula, I could just change this I to a B, and let's see if that works. Okay. That didn't work, so I'm going to have to, yeah, so let me go in. I'm going to restart the formula. So let me do another FLOOKUP, XLOOKUP. Okay, so lookup value is here. The lookup array, I think that's why, because I didn't change the lookup array. I had to do both the lookup array and the return array from the balance sheet, which I could have edited that and it would have worked. Okay, so now that brings in the information. Okay. Now, alternatively, what I could do is I could take these formulas and I could edit up here. So basically, I don't want the column to change. So instead, I could edit these because I can't copy these across because it won't know. So for each of these, I'm going to have to set up additional XLOOKUPs. So I'll do that now. So it's relatively quick once you get the hang of it. But now I'm going to go to Shake Shack, turn array, and then I'm going to do the same. Okay, so we can bring this down to and then we're going to move on to, this is going to be the balance sheet portion. So again, I'm going to take the lookup value, lookup array is Shake Shack. Now we're going to do the balance sheet, highlighting the whole column, and the return array in the balance sheet is the values, and hit OK. So now I have the values for that. Okay. And again, I'm going to have to do it for McDonald's. Lookup array, McDonald's income statement. Return array is column B, the values. And now for the cash, it's going to be the balance sheet. So let's go to balance sheet, column A, return value is column B. Hit OK. Bring this down. And now lastly, Yum. So I'm going to go in here. Alternatively, this would be easier too if I had stacked the income statement and the balance sheet on the same page. So let me actually show you how I could have done that. If I took 4 Yum brands, which is down here, and I took Yum brands, alternatively, I could have copied the balance sheet, put it here below the income statement. Oops, balance sheet. Copy the balance sheet and put it below the income statement. I don't need these columns. So this could be sort of a faster way of doing it now that I'm thinking about it. And I can just do one formula now because I have everything in one column. So if I go to Yum income statement, I put the income statement and balance sheet together. So we'll be able to pick them both up in the whole row. So I can be able to drag this all the way to the bottom. And probably something I should have done before. So inventory here is 0. So let me go to the balance sheet. Inventory is 0. Okay. So I'm just going to bring whatever the last known inventory is up through here. So because you really shouldn't have 0 inventory, that's probably just a mistake. So let's go back to the industry side. Oh, I had to do that here in the income statement. Let's bring that over. Okay. Okay, so now the inventory is there. Okay, so now we have all of our variables here. And this is something, again, we're going to have to do for the ratio, the year over year. We're going to have to bring in values, so we could probably learn that lesson when we go do that. Next thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to create the financial ratios down here. So these are financial ratios that we're going to create by using the formulas on the ratio formulas here. So what I'm going to do is I have this in another worksheet. I'm just going to kind of move this over here. So I don't have to keep, this is a little trick. If you don't want to keep moving back and forth between the cells, I can sort of truncate I'm just going to put these, basically putting these side by side. So that way when I go into the industry page, I can, and this is a separate worksheet here that I can use with a quick reference to the formulas. So I just need to create the formulas. The current ratio is current assets divided by current liabilities. So we have current assets here divided by current liabilities. So I'm going to do total current liabilities. And this would be the current ratio. Now for the quick ratio, it's going to be the same formula, but minus the inventory. So it's going to be the current assets, total current assets, minus the inventory divided by the total current liabilities. Okay, and then net working capital is just current assets, total current assets, minus total current liabilities. Okay, moving on to accounts receivable turnover. It's sales revenue. So you see here where it says revenue. I put a little column here for things that might have a different name in the spreadsheet. So if you're not finding it, if you're not finding the values, the names match up, I put a couple of notes in here because they're in accounting and finance. We use different acronyms, different names for the same thing. You know, operating income is EBIT, some also known as earnings before interest and tax. So it could be any one of those three. So I just kind of put that in there. What did I do here? Okay. There we go. So let me just resize these. What happened is I made those columns too small. They disappeared. Okay. So accounts receivable turnover is going to be sales revenue divided by accounts receivable. So here we have, there's going to be the revenues divided by receivables. That is the accounts receivable. Total inventory turnover is going to be revenues divided by inventory. Okay, and then total asset turnover is going to be total sales or revenue divided by total assets. And then we're going to have debt to, we have so-called total debt to assets. Okay, I changed that to debt to equity so we could follow this ratio list. So this is going to be long-term debt divided by shareholders' equity. So we have here long-term debt, and we're going to divide this by shareholders. Common equity is going to be shareholders' equity. Equity multiplier is going to be the EBIT, or earnings before interest and tax, which again, column B, here's the title because it's different than what the downloaded information calls it, operating income, but those are the same. So here, for the equity multiplier, we're going to take the operating income and we're going to divide that by the shareholders' equity. So common equity. And you see also here is the term shareholders' equity. Okay, so you know that it's the same thing. All right, moving down to net profit margin. This is going to be the net profit after taxes divided by sales revenue. Or a lot of times it's just called net income. So here we have in column B again, let me just first do the formula. Net income divided by sales revenue. Okay. And you see here, this is where, again, net profit after taxes in here, so you don't get confused of why that's different, because names are different in accounting. It's just how in finance, they just are not always the same depending on where it's being reported, which country, and they're free to use, they're just synonyms of each other. Okay, gross profit. Again, we're going to take our gross profit and we're going to divide this by our sales revenue and get a gross profit percentage. It's not in here, but I just added gross profit. It's easy enough. ROA, which is return on assets, is going to be the net profit after taxes divided by total assets. So we're going to get our net profit after taxes divided by our total assets. And then our return on equity is going to be our, so here we're going to have to, I'm going to slide this over. Slide this over here. This is our other column of information where we have our return on equity, which is going to be our net profit after taxes divided by shareholder equity. So our net profit after taxes, which is also our net income for common shares, divided by shareholder equity. Okay. Now, earnings per share is going to be our net income, here divided by the common shares. So we're going to take our net income and we're going to divide that by our common shares here. Now, this should not be a dollar sign because these are units. This is a number. Okay, so this is our earnings per share. And then our PE ratio is going to be our, so we go over here, PE ratio is going to be our stock price divided by earnings per share. So we're going to take our stock price and we're going to divide this by our earnings per share. Try that again. Divided by our earnings per share. So this is our PE multiple. And again, this is a value, not a dollar amount. Book value per share. So we're not doing any of these dividends. We're switching down here to book value per share. Shareholders' equity divided by number of common stocks outstanding. So again, shareholders' equity divided by the common stock. And we get our book value per share. Our market capitalization is the stock price times the shares common. So we take our stock price and we multiply it by the outstanding shares, and we get our book value, our market capitalization, which is the value of the entire company. So if you want to buy the company, this is what you'd have to spend. Our cash per share, again, is going to be, so here's a couple, these are a couple items that are not on the list, but they're easy enough. Cash per share, to calculate this, we're going to take our cash and short-term investments, and we're going to divide that by outstanding shares. And then revenue per share, we're going to take our revenues and divide that by outstanding shares or common stock, shares common. And the book value per share, so we do have book value per share here, is going to be shareholders' equity divided by the outstanding shares. Okay, so this is our book, so our price to book. Oops, I did a book value per share. I want the price to book, which is going to be the stock price divided by the book value per share. Whoops, that was a mistake from before. Okay, so it's 18. And again, this is a multiple, not a number. Okay, so now that we have all these calculated, I can just take these, move them over, and it'll calculate for each of the different companies. So we'll have it populated for all the companies. And then we can take our average, this formula here, and we can do an industry average. And I can place it here. But this is, let's see, let's make this, okay. And then I can, oops, undo that. So I want to paste it here. I don't want to put it in every column because I just want to average the columns that have values. Okay, so here are our industry average. So we're completed the industry page here, and we brought in all information. So now we have to move on and do the year over year. So we'll start with Chipotle year over year. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the whole page. I'm going to do Control Find. I'm going to put in McDonald's, and I'm going to replace that with Chipotle Mexican Grill. I'm going to replace all. So that way, all the titles now are replaced. And again, I have to bring in the values here. And what I can do for this is I'm going to do the XLOOKUP again. But I'm going to be smarter about it this time. So I'm going to take the balance sheet information. And I'm just going to put it below the income statement information, so I don't have to do two sets of VLOOKUPs. Let me try that again. Okay, and I'll do that. I'll also do that for Shake Shack. Oh, let me go back. So what I'm going to do here is I just want to highlight the area I need. Put that down there. And we'll do the same for McDonald's. So this is to make making the formulas easier. Okay, so I'm getting this error because I need to go in the balance sheet and just Control A, highlight the area I want to copy. I can't copy over the entire page because it won't fit. Okay. So now I could go back to, let's just go back here, and I could do that XLOOKUP. And I'll take the value. The array is going to be column A. The return will be column B. I'm going to hit OK. So I'm getting this NA. So if you get this MA, sometimes maybe the titles, see there's a space here, where if I go back here under stock price, there is no space. So even though they look the same, the formula is getting confused because this is thinking there's a space. I'm going to take that space away, and now it'll work. Okay, so if I bring this down, I'll get my values will come in. And that's for okay. So what I want though is I want to modify this formula so I can bring in year 2021, which is the next column. So I don't want column A here. But if I copy this formula and move it over, it's going to be completely confused because it's going to try and move everything over. So I can put in some absolutes here for column A here. That's an absolute. And then column A here is an absolute. So putting these absolutes on these columns, so I can lock this in, and I'm going to pull this down. Okay, so now if I bring it over, it's going to bring it over. This is going to bring over column C, which is 2021. Copy this and move this here. So now this is bringing in column E, but I still want column C. So I can just retype this to be C. Bring this down. I'm going to copy this over here. And I want this to be same column. This is A, B, C. No, this is B, C, C, and now I want D. So I can change this to D. So I'm just editing the formula to get the right column. Bring this down. Copy. And 2019, if I go back to here, 2019 is column E. So for the last one, I want to put this back to column E. Okay. Okay, so column E. So if we go here, if I just check the stock price on these, we're only going to do year over year for 4 years here. So we have, so the formulas for the year over year are in here already. So that's already been calculated. So what it's basically saying is the stock went from 1556 to 1625, or almost a 2% decline. So this is looking at the year over year change for these different sets of years. So for the stock price here, we went from 800 to 1290. That's a 28% increase. It went from 1290 to 1656. We see here this formula is just returning zeros. So there's a problem in this formula. Okay, and that's because this should have been year 2020. So the years were not 22, 21, 2020. Oh wait. Anyway, let me undo that. Okay, now the year. So the formula here, let's redo the formula. It should be, oh, I hate when it does that. This new minus old divided by old. I have to put parentheses around the formula. Okay, so that makes sense. Bring this down. And then here, 2019, 2020, 2019, we're going to take new, but let me be smart, start the parentheses, the new year minus the older year divided by the older year. Okay, so that's fixed. And this is C minus D divided by D. Okay, so I just double check these formulas, which you should do too to make sure the year over year calculation is correct. And then down here we have the ratios. So for 2022, we can actually go into the industry page. Since the ratios line up, I can copy the ratios here from column C. And this is still column C, so I should be able to paste these in. Yes, and then I can move these across. But I can't put them in. Just want to move them into the ranges here. And then I can take the year over year formulas, copy them down here. Okay. So what I don't need is I copied the formulas aren't the same length, so I'm going to just pull these down. By double clicking on the row, I'll get rid of these hashtags here by opening up the row. And I'm going to take, keep the format painter and push this across. And then just delete the formulas in the gray rows that don't need to be calculated. Okay. Don't worry about these. When you see these green triangles, it's some sort of a warning. You could just say, ignore this error. It's not an error. It's just what it's doing is it's flagging that, oh, something might be wrong. You should check that. So I'm going to just say, ignore the error. And I can do that on everything at once. Okay. There's a couple up here. So if that's annoying you, you can just kind of remove that. Okay, so now I have everything calculated here for the year over year for Chipotle Mexican Grill. And I see these green tags are up here too. Let's see, ignore that. Okay. So now what we could do is, everything's pretty well calculated here. I can take this and I can move this into the Shake Shack year over year. And I can overlay this here. And I can hit Control Find, Chipotle Mexican Grill. And then replace with Shake. Replace all. So now I've updated them. And also nicely went in and replaced. So you see here at Chipotle Mexican Grill, the formulas all had CMG in them. And when I did that here, it just replaced the CMG with the CHAK. So it updated all my formulas for this page as well. So I'll show you how that works again. I can highlight the whole year over year. I can go to McDonald's and I can paste this in because all my formulas are correct. But these formulas now are pulling from the Shake Shack income statement balance sheet. And I want to pull from McDonald's. And I also want to change the titles to McDonald's. So if I highlight the entire sheet, Control Find, and I put in Shake, and then go Replace, I want MCD, it's going to replace all the shakes with MCDs, replace all, even in the formulas. So that way all my formulas update, and my year over years are good. And I might as well just finish this trend and move it to Yum as the last stop here. MCD, and we want to replace this with YUM, place all. And I can tell from the stock price that it's been replaced. So everything automatically calculates here. So everything's good. So now I have my year over year calculated. I should go back and format those sheets. And I have so Chipotle Mexican Grill is completely done. The income statement and balance sheet are formatted. And the Chipotle Mexican Grill year over year. What I might want to do to continue with this colorscape is I might want to take the same color and here maybe put that color in here to keep that same aesthetic. And I could just, so the company name, I could put Chipotle Mexican Grill up here just to kind of keep it so these tabs all look similar. And you would do the same thing for Shake Shack. So when you're ready, let me just delete that. So only really need the year 2017. So for Shake Shack, we have the green hue, so we could go in and update the titles to this green color. And I think it just looks a lot cleaner than having all those different colors. And then you can more easily tell what page you're on by what colors are popping up as you're going through. So it's just a cleaner way to organize the information. Okay. All right, so this is how I didn't completely finish the case. So you can go in and finish the McDonald's and the Yum by formatting each of the pages and putting the correct colors in. So we have our industry page here, and maybe this is the McDonald's color, but we'll bring this to, maybe we'll pick a new color for this. We'll put in that color. And I don't think we need to have this highlighted in green, so I'll take that, put that back to white. Okay, so that's kind of cleaned up, and then I can put this industry page, I can put that same color for the tab, so that way it matches up. Okay, so on the memo, this was just some things that a list of things I wanted to do as far as creating this summary. If you were to create an executive summary for this case, I did list some example charts that should include. So an executive summary, a dashboard could be populated with charts, tree maps, or bar charts of the different financial ratios to kind of summarize the data between the 4 companies in the industry quickly. And then, of course, the financial analysis would include, you would talk about each of the 4 companies, their strengths, their weaknesses, and a recommendation might be, of these 4 companies, which is the company you think is the best company to buy, and then the company would be, which company you think would be the best company to sell. That's if you were to create an executive summary for this case. So, okay, so that's my instructions on how to do financial modeling on the fast food ratios. I hope you found this useful. Thank you and take care.